Center of a major fraud case. Federal prosecutors indicted 5 people for their roles in offering a juror $120,000 for a not guilty verdict in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. The U.S. attorney says the group targeted juror 52 because she was the youngest juror and appeared to be the only juror of color. According to court documents, they dug up information on her family online and even put a GPS tracking device on her car to track her whereabouts. During their investigation, investigators uncovered a video of one of the defendants leaving a bag of money at the juror's home.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Warriors, I have some massive news coming from President Trump as he drops the hammer down on Somali corruption in the state of Minnesota. I have some amazing things that you are not going to want to miss. Eclipse, historical information, outright fraud committed by Somali Americans. Before we get into the video, don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe to my channel, select all notifications, stick around to the very end. Let's go. All right, Warriors, we got to fraud some things here in America, right? President Trump recently stated that he is going to take away temporary protective status. Now, you know the left-leaning media is going to make the man look like a racist, okay? But we're going to walk through what's actually been going on in the state of Minnesota with fraud concerning people from Somalia originally. All right, now, again, the left is going to make it look like he's doing this because these people are not white. They are black-looking people. They're from Somalia. They are Muslim. Also, keep that in mind. And also, I want to let you guys know there is a social experiment, in my opinion, in this country that wants to turn our country into something that the founding fathers never, ever would have wanted. And I want you guys to take a look at sitting Democrat Congresswoman out of Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, and see how she thinks is a problem with how a lot of people think that are not just from Somalia, but from other countries as well. Let's listen.
Mareykanka laga doortay oo Congress-ka Mareykanka ku jirto laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed, gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah oo ahade qof iyadoo da'yar wadankeedii laga kaxeeyo wili xiise u qabto in maalin wadankeedii ay ku noolaato oo dadkeedii wax ay la wadaagto. marka alxamdulillah waxaan rajaynayaa aniga iyo ilmahayga in aan hadde ku barbaariyo iyagana ilmahooda ay ku barbaariyaan dhulkii aniga aan ku soo koray. taasna haddii ay suurtagelayso waa hadda shaqo badan inaan wada qabanaa hadduu Ilaahay yiraahdo.
This woman clearly sees herself as Somali, not American. Okay, she dreams of living there and raising her children and grandchildren. Well, you know what? I don't mind if you leave America, Ilhan Omar. You can go along and just go right back. Just go right back. I don't mind. So if you feel like such a hunger and a thirst, go back, and then you won't have to be hungry and thirsty for Somalia. That's my take. I mean, these people don't see themselves as American. They have more allegiance to the country that they left. And remember the conditions under which people left Somalia in the first place. They started coming over here in the 1920s, massively beginning in the early 1990s due to war conflict. And then as Americans, it's my opinion that we need to stop being such goody-goody trying to take care of everybody else. Some of those people, they actually hate us. Okay, they do not see themselves truly as American. They have more allegiance to their own country, and they get in political positions of power to get their hands on laundered money only to send it back to their own country into the hands of very nefarious people. Now, next, I want to show you a clip from the Will Cain Show. Now, this is very important for everybody to understand exactly how these people have been money laundering, stealing Minnesota taxpayer money, taking the food out of the mouths of American-born citizens, and taking money from these so-called autism programs. Now, this is a little bit of a longer clip, but you will not regret watching it all the way to the end.
New, stunning report from the City Journal showing a massive fraud scheme in Minnesota. You have to hear about this. It involves false autism claims, the Somali community, and connections to a terror group. Let's explain over at The Wall. Now, it all revolves around autism and HSS program. That is Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services. Now, this was created to help seniors, addicts, and others find housing, but the criteria to enter this program was incredibly loose and therefore easy to take advantage of. It's led to fraud and costs absolutely exploding. Just 5 years ago, in 2020, costs for this program were $2.6 million. 4 years later, by 2024, cost had been over $100 million, 104. Through the first 6 months of this year, costs are at $61 million, meaning if you double that over the entirety of the year, you're looking at $122 million. In 5 years, from $2 million to $122 million. Now, why? 6 people are accused of defrauding HSS, and they're members of the Somali community. But this just gets worse if we take a look at Minnesota's federally funded autism program. Now, several people, and this is an example, a woman in the Somali community, are co-conspirators, and they're accused of recruiting kids for autism therapy. They brought in families, had them convinced to get their kids diagnosed as autistic. In fact, these families ultimately ended up having various social services bid for their children, competing with the number and size of check that they would get. It didn't matter if the kids had autism. And what happened? Autism claims to Medicaid surged. In 2018, $3 million. By 2023, listen here, from $3 million to $400 million. Autism providers jumped from 41 to 328 in 5 years. Now, City Journal reports that the Somali fraud rings send a lot of money back to Somalia. 40% of households in Somalia get remittances from abroad. That totals $1.7 billion. That is more than the entire budget of the Somali government. Money being sent abroad, from abroad, back to Somalia. Where is that money going? Take a look at this. Most alarmingly, a lot of that money is funneled through money traders, and in the end, ends up in the hands of al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab. So to bring this full circle, the Minnesota taxpayers are funneling money through fraudulent autism claims back to Somalia, where that money lands in the accounts of Al-Shabaab.
These people are evil, and they have their own country's best interest at heart. And on some level, you're like, well, shouldn't we all have our own country's best interest at heart? Well, they live here in America, and should not they assimilate? Now, people are going to try and make what President Trump is doing, like I already told you, as if he's being racist, but they're just going to believe the news. They're not going to even research this temporary protected status. Why should they get temporary protection, which allows them essentially to just stay in America and do whatever they want to do? Is this right? And we all know the answer to that question. These people, and with the help of evil, just so fake, compassionate, racist, God-hating liberals, God-hating white liberals. Yes, if you happen to be one of those who watching this channel, I know you are burning up, angry at this moment while watching this video. Okay, but it's the truth. This liberalism, this sick ideology, like making America some huge social experiment while allowing a lot of people into our country that do not align with American constitutional values, and they bring the same mess that they left in their country over into our country. And of course, as always, they're so compassionate on the left without even thinking about how they're harming American citizens. Should Minnesota taxpayers pay money to Islamic terrorists? That is an easy question to answer. Now let's take a look from the early 2000s. Now this has been going on a long time. I already told you guys that in the early 1990s is when we started to have a massive influx of Somalis because they were escaping their country. And now this is a news clip from the early 2000s. They've been using their money that they've gained from their so-called businesses to send money back home. Let's take a look.
At Cedar and Riverside, 2 businesses shut down, their assets seized, and a suspect hauled away. That suspect may be Garad Jama, the only Twin Cities individual targeted by customs agents in the raid. Jama's last known address, this apartment complex at 2100 Bloomington Avenue South in Minneapolis. A block away from the first raid, 2 more businesses raided and shut down. At both locations, a steady stream of Somali refugees hoping to wire money home to their families turned away.
Business is shut down right now.
And at both locations, boxes of material seized, including a safe and a filing cabinet. Customs agents believe all 4 businesses are involved in funneling money to Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist network.
Sending money back to Osama bin Laden's terror network. See, this is what we got to look at when we should always have our own country's best interest first. I realize that people are escaping horrible situations. I realize that. But when you look at how they do not see themselves as Americans, and they are literally using their businesses as a front to send money to terrorists, Islamic terrorists, that puts us in danger. Now, those on the left are going to claim, well, they can't go back to their war-torn country. It's unsafe for them. But what about Americans? They are unsafe to us. And President Trump is all about America first.
President Donald Trump posting on Truth Social that he will terminate the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. In his post, he says the reason is, quote, Minnesota, under Governor Walz, is a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. I am, as the President of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status, TPS program, for Somalis in Minnesota. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from. It's over, President DJT, end quote. Now, we have reached out to Governor Tim Walz for a comment, but have not heard back tonight. Somalia's protective status currently runs through March 2026. Now, tonight, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar responding to Trump's post on Twitter, saying, I am a citizen, and so are majority of Somalis in America. Good luck celebrating a policy change that really doesn't have much impact on the Somalis you love to hate. We are here to stay.
And let me just say, I looked up some information. Is President Trump constitutionally able to do this? Well, the current protection status for Somalis in America runs through March of 2026. So if that ends, they don't have protective status anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit of what I looked up here. It states, does the president have the authority to end the TPS, temporary protective status program? Legal officials say it's outside of the president's authority to end the program. Somalia was first added as a temporary protected status designated country in 1991. After civil war broke out there, it has been extended more than 24 times as U.S. officials found that it was too dangerous for Somali people in the United States to return. But what about people here? This is what I don't understand with how people think on the left. Alex Shaw, a civil rights attorney for the Council of American Islamic Relations in Minnesota, said the president's social media announcement on Friday has no legal effect. TPS programs can only be terminated by the Secretary of Homeland Security, Shaw said. So Kristi Noem, get to it. She can do this, right? On Sunday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said federal officials would assess whether Somalia should remain on the list of designated countries, suggesting Somali people in Minnesota wouldn't be affected right away. Okay. And he wants to end this whole program because, I mean, you're dealing with money laundering to terrorists. I mean, I need people to let that sink into their mind. Next scam, feeding our future. This is another scam that involves paying off a juror. Watch this.
We have new details on a jury tampering scheme at the center of a major fraud case. Federal prosecutors indicted 5 people for their roles in offering a juror $120,000 for a not guilty verdict in the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. The U.S. attorney says the group targeted juror 52 because she was the youngest juror and appeared to be the only juror of color. According to court documents, they dug up information on her family online and even put a GPS tracking device on her car to track her whereabouts. During their investigation, investigators uncovered a video of one of the defendants leaving a bag of money at the juror's home. You may recall the juror came forward with the bribe, and 5 of the 7 defendants were found guilty of fraud. They were convicted for stealing millions of dollars from the government meant to feed hungry kids during the pandemic.
Witness tampering, tracking people. This is taking money from people that was meant to take care of folks during the pandemic. All right, so wow. And see, why is it that Somali people, whatever, Somalians, Somalis, seem to be so entrenched in corruption? It is their culture, supposedly. And they brought that thinking, that way of thinking and doing things over here. See, these people are involved in witness tampering. These people are putting people in positions, political positions of power, so that they can get their own self-interest things taken care of in their own country. Again, I repeat, these are terrorists using taxpayer money to fund terrorism. Now, the next thing is really going to make your blood boil. This is a police chief that symbolically is really saying, we're sorry to the Somalis. We're so sorry. We're going to go into this savior, the thing that the people on the left do. They try to make it look like they're so compassionate. And this is what this police chief of Minneapolis is doing, pretending and symbolically saying everything that the left stands for.
community hadda caruurteena inaan garab istaagno chiefkana waa u baahannahay annagana waa isku baahannahay
عشان oo kamid ah odayaasha community-ga Soomaaliyeed iyo waalidiinta magaaladan degan ilmana ku koriyay.
The Somali community here in Minneapolis has been welcoming and has shown love towards me, and I appreciate it. Over the last 3 years, we have been working together to try and address some of the real serious problems that we have in our community. We have to be honest at times with the problems that we're having in our community, and we need our community to help us fix those problems together because it's real and it's serious. At the same time, if people have taken anything that I have said out of context in a way that's caused harm, I apologize and I'm sorry for that because that's not my intention.
Gee, I wonder if those words from the police chief were not just from the Somali person next to him, but also from him. Because they, again, people on the left kowtow because they don't want to appear to be racist. Some white Americans, you guys get yourselves embroiled in things that you should not do because you don't want to be labeled a racist. Some folks are going to like you or dislike you no matter what you do. So try to please God and don't be afraid, because that's why they throw that phrase around a lot. They do it to Black people because they want us to look at ourselves as victims. And then they do it to white people because they want to make you seem like if you don't go along with their evil program, then you are a racist. You are a fascist. There's a trick to this. This is like social engineering at its highest. Okay, and you can see it everywhere you look. And even when people on the left don't agree with you and they don't have an argument, they can't think of anything to say because you really backed them up into a corner. First thing out of their mouths is you're a racist, you're a fascist. And they're using, and see, another thing I noticed about the juror that they picked, she was young and a person of color. Young and a person of color. Make no mistake, there's a reason why they pick people of color on the left to do the dirty work. Because then when you call it out, they'll say you're just doing that because she's Black, you're a racist. They use it as a cover, and it is very, very sick, and we need to stop falling for it. So President Donald J. Trump, I hope you do what you got to do, because we need to take our country back from the people whom some would say have invaded it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Select all notifications. Be blessed, love God, your families, the United States of America, and march on, warriors.